something so small right now is very small right now. And anything that's very big right now is still small in the long run.
So we think that the other parties will brush us off because we are young. Now, what that leads to is it stops us from reaching out.
Would it be better if you put me through those challenges that were in your time?
Are we thinking the right things? Are we believing the right things about ourselves, about the people around us, or even about the world?
When you see somebody who has faced less hardship, is your first thought to call out their lack of resilience? It's really tough to just keep thinking about where you fall short. But I think it's even stronger to be emotionally vulnerable with your teammates and to build that connection with them where everybody is comfortable about sharing what they're worried about and just being open with them. Welcome to Halopod-cast, where we explore the transformative power of leadership through Halogen's attributes framework. We are your hosts. I'm Ella. This is Sean. And in this series, the inner and outer leader will dive into key leadership qualities like emotional intelligence, resilience, and effective communication, and how they can shape the leaders of tomorrow.
So whether you're an educator, a parent, a mentor, or just someone who wants to guide the next generation, this podcast is here to equip you with practical insights and actionable tools to support young people as they navigate the world to become the leaders that they are meant to be.
In this episode, we'll explore the impact that belief systems have on individuals and their approach to life. We'll also discuss some typical unhealthy beliefs that can hold people hostage from the opportunities that are before them. If you're ready to learn, grow, and make an impact, let's dive in.
So we'll be doing this episode a bit differently, right? We polled a mysterious anonymous audience, and we'll be taking questions from the floor. Yeah. Right, so let's have the first question from the floor.
Wow, it's from the floor.
Yeah.
Ha 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 ha.
Now we're just going to read it out, right? How much of what you believe is actually you, and how much was downloaded from school, family, or the internet?
I feel like not all my thoughts are original. I feel like there's a lot of people on the earth. There's no way you can have like an original thought that somebody else on the planet has not thought of. Maybe like I'm thinking, oh, I love xiaolongbao. I just ate them for lunch, right? Then maybe you're thinking the same thing. And I feel like that's how beliefs kind of translate also. It's really hard to have like a super original thought. But I feel like as a youth, when I'm still forming like different perspectives and different beliefs and values that I hold dear to me, I reference a lot from like my environment. So like, for example, I look at people I look up to. I learn the type of leader that they are. And maybe that's something I aspire to be. And that's how I build up my values and beliefs. So it's not like super original. I can't confirm that like I'm actually me. But you know, I like this version of me because I'm proud of myself that I'm able to learn and pick up things that I find valuable in life.
When did you come to that realization that your thoughts are not original thoughts? Because for most people growing up, there will be this season where they think that they are the only ones going through that phase in life, right? And in developmental psychology, there's a well-known term for it. It's called a personal fable, where if they're struggling through something, they think, oh, I'm the only one that's going through this tough time in life, you know, like losing your toy or losing your handphone. Nobody understands me. I'm the only one that's losing this, you know, that kind of thing. So when did you realize that, okay, maybe it's not that unique to you after all?
Okay, in layman terms, this feels like main character syndrome, where you feel like, I guess you're the center of the universe. And of course, you're living your own life. You can only see from your perspective, right? So I guess everything's in first person, like when you watch a show. But I think my thoughts may be original as in they come from me and they're true to me, but it's not unique because I feel like a lot of people have maybe different perspectives, but they just think of it a different way. Maybe it's like we all have the same common belief system, but we just see it in different perspectives because of our life experiences and what we've been through. So there's no like particular pinpoint in my life where I'm suddenly aware that like, oh my God, I'm not the main character. But I guess it's like when I talk to more people and I'm like, hey, you and me have the same sort of like vibe and we think of something the same way.
Yeah, you're still the main character, but then you realize there are other main characters in their own shows that,
Yeah. Correct, like I'm their side character.
We are not Hollywood blockbuster.
Yeah.
We are like the same, not that different kind of movie.
Correct, like it's like you
fighting
play
for box office sales. Yeah.
box office sale.
Okay, sorry, different generation. Y'all don't go box office.
I don't even know what is a box office. I just know that it's a term that people use. Okay, anyways, I use like online streaming services, so I don't really get the whole blockbuster thing. But I get what you mean. It's like we all play different roles in other people's lives. Like I may be like comedic relief to somebody else, but I guess like when I'm living my life, I try to pick up things and learn from like, I guess, just build my belief system around what I see lah. And that's I think how you generally approach it, because we don't have like the experience to back it up. So we learn from what's around us.
Yeah, and there's this second part to this question, right? Which is like how much of your belief is influenced by what has happened outside of you, like your surroundings, the people around you, or maybe even the internet. Yeah.
I feel like it's my beliefs are shaped a lot by my family. Yeah, so I have 3 older sisters, and the age gap is really big. So whenever I go through like any stage of life, they've already been through it. All 3 of them have already been through it. So I'm just kind of like a bystander, and then I just sit down there, and then they'll be like, when you enter like PSLE, all that, they'll be like, it's not a big deal, just go in. Then they can teach me math, they help me with my homework, all that. And because I have older sisters and I'm the youngest, right, I learn a lot from them, like life skills. Like for example, like literally yesterday, I was just talking about how I was like having some difficulty in JC and like coping because the subjects are really tough. And even though none of them went to JC, they all went the polytechnic route. They looked at me and said it's not a big deal. Honestly, because they're 20 somethings and I'm still my first digit is still 1. But they give really good advice lah. Your first digit is 3.
Lost count. Yeah.
Can count on one hand?
Yes. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. No, but I just thinking like at that point, hearing the advice or the comment, right? It's not really advice, right? It's just like matter of fact saying like it's no big deal. Does it help you? Because some people will take it as you are trivializing my reality.
Okay, no. Okay, depends on the person I'm talking to. If like somebody I'm not close to tries to comfort me or like patronize me when I'm like really having a tough time, like I'm crashing out, right? Then somebody taps me on my shoulder say, it's okay, it's no big deal. And it sounds very performative, right? Then I'll suddenly like think to myself, oh, this person is not the one. Like they're my op. New word of the day, op. Okay, right?
What's that?
Opposition, opponents, like people that op you, like they're against you.
Oh, like the opposition party.
Anyways, so like, but if it's like coming from somebody that knows me really well, like my sisters, my good friends, right? And I'm encountering a challenge, they're gonna be like, this is like nothing to you. Like, I guess it's not really like devaluing the things that I go through, but it's putting into perspective, which I think a lot of youth like. Something so small right now is very small right now. And anything that's very big right now is still small in the long run.
Okay. So can be same words but different effect coming from different people. Yeah.
Correct.
Why don't you pick the next question from the floor?
Oh, it's still from the floor.
Yeah, still from the floor.
Can you put it out on the table?
Mm-hmm. Well,
okay, now it's not from the floor, it's from the table.
You could table the discussions.
Okay, what's a common youth mindset myth you'd like to bust on this episode? What are some mindsets you have about youth? Or like assumptions that you have?
I think I would answer this from my time as a young person and other people had certain narratives, right? Descriptions of how they think our generation was like. All right. So I'm Gen Y, right?
Why?
Gen Y, right? Millennial. And our forefathers, right? My forefathers have described us as a softer generation than the ones before them because it seems like we have less hardship that we are going through. Like we complain more and whatnot, right? So I think that is one of the things that have been used to describe my generation. And now that I am not the young generation, I see people like you. Now I realize my peers are using that same description, right, to those that are younger than them. So we, as ones who were described as softer, weaker, less resilient, less perseverant, less patient, and whatnot, a lot of negative labeling, right? We are propagating that same set of labels onto that next generation. Do you feel like you're receiving some of these?
Honestly, yeah. Like, my generation is Gen Z, So after yours, right? And well, labeled a lot as the strawberry generation, very easily bruised and like what you said, very less resilient. And I guess we don't face as much hardship. Okay, but this is some view that I learned from the internet. Like somebody shared it out there and I thought it was quite like interesting, which is like when you see somebody who has faced less hardship, is your first thought to call out their lack of resilience, or is your first thought supposed to be proud of yourself and your generation for building a more comfortable environment for your children and their children and their children? And it's honestly like, I guess the way that I see it is I don't feel the need, or like I don't see the impact of like calling younger generations less resilient and all that, because I know they face different challenges. You know, it's like growing up with technology, of course, everything is more convenient, everything's more comfortable. And I will admit that I cannot face the hardships that you'll face if you put me in your time. But ultimately, would it be better if you put me through those challenges that were in your time? Because it's like a totally different era. And I feel like because times change, the different attitudes and the different attributes you need to take on are different.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that there's progress, right? We don't fight. I think it will be troubling if we are fighting the same sets of hardship generation after generation, and that means that there's no real progress, lah, right? We haven't made things better for the next generation, and I think the next generation will have their own battles to fight, and which may not always need the same attributes, right, to tackle the troubles of their time, right? So what required perseverance in one generation might require creativity from the next. So I think we need to recognize, learn to recognize that, lah. So I would say every generation has its labels to bear. I think what we do wish, right, is we also recognize the positive sides, not just for existing generations, but also for like to subsequent generations, right? That, you know, I hope my generation can recognize that, okay, yeah, you are not as resilient as us, but but you have more opportunities, you have more creativity, you have more ways to innovate and create value and make things better for your generation and the ones after. Yeah. So I just hope that we can recognize that. Yeah.
I feel like in my journey of community leadership, these sort of like negative opinions that older generations have of the younger generations makes it really hard for me to work with, for example, older partners and organizations, honestly. Like when I'm running projects and all that, it's sometimes a bit difficult to talk to a party that's older, because I feel like I'm not taken seriously, or like maybe they see me in a way where I'm less resilient and such. They don't take me seriously because they don't see a need in like hearing me out. But I feel like the whole point of us being youth and us taking initiative and stepping up to make an impact is because we are the future generations. And I feel like if we're not being taken seriously, or people have this impression of us that we're unable to break out of, our esteem and honestly our skill set will never reach a point where we are resilient enough for the batch above us. So like when I was working with different organizations back in one of my fundraising projects, I reached out to a lot of partners and sponsors basically saying, put your trust in me, because I'm trying to do X and Y and I'm trying to make good of what I have as a youth, right? But a lot of the responses that I got was kind of like, they don't think I can pull it off, number one. Or number two, they don't see value in what I do. So they legit treat me as the charity case instead of the project as a charitable cause. Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's so demoralizing as a youth. Because then if everybody treats us this way, then why would we bother doing anything at all? Then we'll just wait for things to be handed down to us and we will listen to whatever like generations above us say, instead of like stepping out and forming a label for our own generation.
Yeah. Well, I would say as someone of the previous generation that sometimes have to work with these young people, and I'm putting on a slightly more developmental hat, right? Where yeah, we want to give you the opportunities. Most people don't have the developmental hat. They come more from a place of practicality and pragmatic approach, right? Like if you're trying to achieve certain goals for me as an partner organization, all right, I will get more return on investment if I spend the resources on
More
someone
experienced people.
with more experienced
Correct.
people, right? So that's a very pragmatic approach. So someone who is more developmental will then take the trouble to, okay, guide you, make room for mistakes, you know, allow for imperfection, right? And recognize that it's all part of the learning journey for a young person. But I will also say to you, right, that sometimes going through this rejection, this people brushing you off. This is a rite of passage that every generation has had to go through. Every generation needs to find a way to prove themselves, prove their worth, prove the value that they bring to the table. And yeah, until you have proven it, you are going to get this kind of people brushing you off. And it's up to you to find a way, grit through it, find a way to convince them, create the value that you say you can create, and people will be convinced.
Giving very much, don't let the haters get to you. Do you think my generation is very hard to work with? Be honest.
I left.
You left Halogen because of young people.
No lah. Yeah. I would say the aspirations are different. So that's a good question, right? Is your generation particularly hard to work with? I think it seems difficult because the values are different. What you are after are different. So like I mentioned, my generation and even those who are older, they are after the pragmatic, tangible outcomes, right? Economic return on investment. So those are the very pragmatic things. Things that kind of put food on the table, brings money to the company, pays for jobs and all that. So and those are not bad things, right? Whereas when we deal with young people, right, there's a lot more idealism in them, right? And so yeah, there's this tension between what is pragmatic and what is ideal. Yeah, I think this tension will always exist. There's value in the pragmatic becoming drawn a little bit more to the center towards, worthwhile ideals to pursue. But I think it's also worthwhile that the idealistic are also drawn a little bit towards the center, where you don't operate on unsustainable idealism, right?
You could balance lah.
You need to have a balance. So I think if you can find a way to work out these tensions, right, then I think you can get very good synergy that is sustainable for the long term. Yeah.
Should we get our next question?
How do you spot when you're slipping into a fixed mindset? Do you have a mental reset button? I wish we did. It would be an easy fix, right? Like,
you just don't think anymore. Like, just reset.
Like a computer software, like an antivirus, right? They'll show up. Then warning, fixed mindset virus, and then like you can press a button to clean it away. Then there'll be an easy fix. Yeah, then there'll be an easy way to fix. There'll be an easy way to fix an entire, I won't say generation, but an entire society, right? Like just rewire their brains, but yeah, doesn't work that way.
Fixed mindset. Honestly, I feel like I can't lie, I don't think I have a very, very good and strong growth mindset, but I think I try my best. Like, how do I catch myself slipping into a fixed mindset? When I fall into a lot of self-doubt, and it's a lot of like inner negativity. So like, we're the generation of like self-love, right? But honestly, it's so hard to self-love, right? When you see things that are better, when you see things that are weaker about you, right? It's either your ego is super high or your ego's on the floor. It's like so bad, right? To balance it out and kind of put yourself in a position where you have that patience with yourself and that inner zenness to like overcome all your challenges and to like grow past it, right? So I can't really like pinpoint where I have a explicit fixed mindset. I just think like my fixed mindset appears whenever I feel like I cannot do anything. And honestly, that's like a definition of the opposite of a growth mindset. Yeah. If growth mindset is you can do anything, fixed mindset is I cannot do anything. Like pessimistic. Yeah. You just leave it be, you know.
Yeah, and it's not just the fixed and versus growth mindset spectrum, right? There are a lot of different unhealthy thought patterns that hold people hostage to not want to seize the opportunities before them, right? I mean, I can read out in cognitive behavioral psychology there are some very well documented common thinking patterns that sabotage people in the pursuits of life, whether it's work, career, relationships, and it's more common than you expect, right? So I'm gonna read say maybe just one or two out, and you tell me whether you can identify some of these ones, right? So if you're interested, just Google common cognitive distortions. Some people call it automatic negative thinking patterns, right, or automatic negative thoughts. But basically, these are a set of unhealthy thought patterns that hold us hostage, right? So
I feel like I'm in a therapy office. It's kind of crazy.
yeah. Okay, so let me just read one, right? A common one is called mind reading, right? Which happens when we assume we know what the other person is thinking about, and more often times we are assuming a negative thought that the person has towards us, right? So let me give you an example, right? You are thinking of maybe you're in a networking session, right? And then you want to approach someone and shake your hand, introduce yourself, want to pitch something to them. But then you might think, he must think I'm very young. I think I better don't approach him.
It's quite relatable.
Right. So we think that the other parties will brush us off because we are young. Now, what that leads to is it stops us from reaching out. Right. So this is just an example of reading other people's minds most often times wrongly. Yeah, so here's another one, right? Which is assuming the worst, right? Or catastrophizing. Okay, it's a tough word to pronounce, right? So example, right? Broad conclusions are made from a single event, right? This is considered an overgeneralization, right? So for example, here's a lame one, right? Like, oh, it rained today. It is going to rain the rest of the day, and I cannot go out and play anymore, right? You overgeneralize today's weather to the next few days.
I feel like that's what a lot of people do to other people. Like we overgeneralize people based on like their first impressions, or like just in general, like whenever you meet somebody, you assume that you know everything about them.
Yeah. Or we do this to like people when in the first time they failed, like they do something, they didn't do it well, and then we overgeneralize it to like he will never be able to do anything well again.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's extremely relatable. Like in my head, maybe it's just we think too much. So we should like create a reset button where we just like don't think, right?
I don't think it's because we think too much. I think it's just an automatic way we try to make sense of the world around us, right? To gain some kind of semblance of control, right? Or over the situation, right? Like then okay, because he's never going to be able to do it well again, all right? Or he cannot do this, cannot do that. Then how I get some sense of control of the situation is I don't ask him to do it lah. Right, I go and find another solution that excludes that person from it, right? So that's me trying to gain some sense of semblance of control. Yeah.
I feel like it's because people think that like their experiences naturally translate to a conclusion. So if I've been through a lot of experience, right, and I make my generalizations and I make my assumptions, like what you said, I feel like I'm in control. Like my experiences counted for something, and that I'm the big dog here.
Yeah, and this thing about overgeneralizing people based on like one or two experiences is it doesn't take into account that people can change, people can grow, people can develop over time. So I have met people, right, who had to work with really young folks, right? They take them in as, say, a part-timer or as an intern, like fresh out of school, right? When I say fresh out of school, it's like after secondary school, they're waiting for poly. They are all but 16, 17 years old. They come and do a part-time job, all right? And then, of course, polytechnic starts, they go back to work, and they come back and they want to do an internship, right? And it's very easy to write them off based on their encounter with them when they are 16, 17 years old. We assume that now that they are 19, they are going to be the same as when they were 16 and 17, right? But actually, in those developmental years, a lot can change. Yeah, and there's a lot of maturing that happens in the late teenage years. So sometimes I think we write young people off based on that one or two earlier encounters that we had with them, right? So this is an example of generalizing. And in this case, it's not towards ourselves. It can sometimes be towards other people, or it can be towards situations even. Yeah.
I feel like the generalization of you to others may also affect how they think of themselves though. Like it's I feel like it's interlinked, because if people keep doubting me, right, I'll either have two mindsets. I want to prove them wrong, or maybe I'm actually in the wrong and people are right about me. You know, it's a bit tough, like as a youth, right, to have so many pressures where it's like people either looking down at you, or I guess it's just people looking down on you. Like, for example, if people look down at me, right, do I think they're right? Right? But it's like, if they're not right, then what can I do to prove them wrong? And how can I prove them wrong? Can I even prove them wrong is the question, you know? And I guess it generates like a lot of negative belief, and it's kind of bad for like the esteem of like youth, I guess.
But that's just one side, right? Like, what if they are not right? How do I prove them wrong? But there's also the side of, what if they are right about me, right? That I am incompetent, I am not good enough, and then that's where growth mindset, fixed mindset thing comes in, right? Like, how do you approach this kind of feedback that's given to you? Because sometimes these things are true, right? Like, okay, maybe you really just suck at certain things lah, and the correct approach is do something to get better at it, right? Yeah, and if you don't suck at it, then prove them wrong lah. But if you suck at it, you will also still want to prove them wrong lah, but you have to go and get better at it in order to prove them wrong lah.
So conclusion is prove them wrong lah.
Maybe, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if that's a necessary battle to always fight. Yeah. So some people go about their lives primarily driven to prove people wrong. Yeah, and sometimes it becomes emotional baggage.
So the new conclusion is, don't let others define you.
Yeah. I mean, that's one. I wouldn't prescribe a one size fits all thing, right? So I think there's merits to approaching certain aspects and certain seasons of life with I want to prove them wrong, right? But if that is all what your life is going to be about, then I think there are better ways to lead your life lah. Yeah. There's two more.
Do you think your generation is challenging belief systems more than past ones? Why or why not? I think my generation is resilient in another way. Resilient in it's not really counted as defiance, but I guess my generation's the type to want to be involved. Or it's not really kepo also, but okay, sometimes kepo also is like going into spaces where you normally don't belong, or like stepping outside your comfort zone to try new things. So I think like my generation is one of exploration. You get what I mean? So it's like we're challenging the belief system that you have to do life a certain way, right? Or in general, that you always have to be stronger and resilient and tenacious like how previous generations were. I feel like we're a lot more emotionally vulnerable, and we're trying to build up the narrative of you not being in control of your life and that being okay.
Yeah. I think as a whole of society, we are trying to redefine, challenge some of those traditional beliefs. So, for example, for a very long time, the belief or the definition of what made you a successful person was the 5 C's, right? So this was the 90s and early 2000s, and now we are trying to redefine it. Our education ministry has kind of like charted this thing called multiple pathways to success, right? So there's no more just one size fits all definition of success, and I think that's important, right? To broaden our idea of what success can look like. It's not always academic, it's not always career. I think we need to bring in other aspects of life as well, right? Like family success. What does raising a successful family look like, right? And if we embrace some of these kind of definitions, then the father or the mother that chooses to take a career break, right, put his career on hold for 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, right, to focus on his family, that is a successful father or mother, right? And we wouldn't put the label of he or she is an unsuccessful person. Yeah.
Success is so hard to define, honestly. It's like so broad. I just think, in my opinion, success is like how content you are with your life. It's from your perspective, at least. It's like how content you are. I feel like success is happiness because if it's like, even if you're unsuccessful but you're content with where you are and you don't feel the need to change yourself. It's that kind of success.
So I'll challenge you on that a bit, right? What happens to someone that has really low expectations of themselves and is easily contented when you know that he has potential for so much more?
Then I think it's okay. Potential is very hard to see because it's something that other people can see in you, but you may not see in yourself. So in that particular case, I would say he's successful unless he specifically like doesn't listen to the people around him that are telling him that he has that potential to succeed. I feel like if I go my whole life knowing that I've reached a certain potential and that's my maximum limit, like I'm fixed to that certain level, I would be like, I guess some sort of like contentness, and I would have reached success because I think that that's my max limit. But if people call me out on it and say, actually you have so much more potential, or they destroy that belief system in me where it's like I'm the only person that sees where I am and I fully understand myself to that capacity, then I believe that person is not successful.
Yeah. And that's two different sets of beliefs, right? Like so let's say I just simplify and put it on a scale of 1 to 10, right? So the person believes that his potential, right? He believes he can reach a number 2, right? But the people around him believe that he can reach like a number 5 or a number 6 and he should aspire for more. So these are like two different sets of belief, right? And if you believe you're number 2, you'll stay at number 2 lah. And I think we need to acknowledge that if you are really capable of a 3 or 4 or 5, then you staying at number 2 should not be celebrated as a form of success. But that's a really difficult thing to tell people, that you shouldn't be happy where you are when you can be capable of so much more. And when other people are telling you and seeing that you are capable of so much more, I think we do them a disservice by saying, okay, be contented, celebrate your level 2, go and live your life.
Then I guess in that case, I feel like it's a community thing. It's the people you're surrounded by. If you're constantly told that number 2 is your limit, then there's something we need to change in society. Like, make sure that everybody knows that they can be trusted and they can grow out of it. You can't just tell a person, grow a growth mindset, and then don't tell them why they have to do it, or like, for example, how it can benefit them in the future. I feel like a lot of schools, whenever I sit for the growth mindset lecture, right, it's very boring and it's very like single-sided because they just tell you, oh, you shouldn't think that way of yourselves. You should always think about improving. But then, to me, right, if I have low self-esteem, right, I don't think I can grow in the first place. So when I sit there for the lecture, right, and I do my survey, do you think you have a growth mindset? I'm just going to put a 5 for all the fields. I'm going to sit down there and then it will just go in here. It's like, I feel like when we hear about success and when we hear about thriving, we need to hear about how people overcame challenges instead of just like looking at their success as like one-dimensional, as in like surface level. Like they succeeded because they did A, B, and C. But in reality, their journey was like this.
Yeah, and that's just one part, right? The other part is also recognizing that in your own journey, you overcame your own challenges, and you also did A, B, C, and D. Right? It's just that sometimes we don't call that out. That to overcome challenges, you need to do A, B, C, and D. What's the most ridiculous narrative you have told yourself that turned out to be completely untrue? Wow, something that turned out to be completely untrue. I don't look good. Yeah. I'm not funny. Ta-da.
Okay. Let me think. I feel like a toxic narrative I tell myself is that like your leaders must always be like a pillar or a very like strong person. So I've been put in a lot of positions where I'm looked up to as like a leader, right? And I think to myself, I cannot share my burdens with the team. My team all got their own burden, right? And it's like I must shoulder the rest of what I'm worrying about and what my teammates might be worrying about. It's honestly really exhausting to keep thinking about how you can shoulder your own burdens and what your teammates are worrying about. Because one person is only meant to bear so much weight, right? And honestly, like, if I look at it this way, would I want a leader that's like really stiff and shows no emotion? Like straight face comes into meetings, let's get this agenda done. Anybody got problems? It's so like rigid, I guess, and you don't form like a connection with your teammates. And I guess because I thought this way about leadership, I was always stressing myself to keep all my struggles like on my own, to appear very like strong to everybody else and to be somebody that can inspire because I go through so much and I don't tell anybody about it. But I think it's even stronger to be emotionally vulnerable with your teammates and to build that connection with them where everybody is comfortable about sharing what they're worried about and just being open with them.
Yeah, it's a more authentic form of leadership. It's a more authentic way of leading the people around you. And the people also get to know your struggles. They get to know your heart. For like what makes your heart beat, what makes you bleed. Like why like why are you working so hard for certain things, right? Why do you care so much about it? And I think sometimes there's a space for leaders to share a little bit more about maybe just like why they are driving certain things so hard, why they care so much about it. I think we don't hear leaders share enough about it.
To
Yeah.
put heart into like what they say, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Then what about you? Do you think you have like a toxic narrative in your head?
Yeah, I'm sure at different points of my own life, I recognize where self-doubt has crept in, right? Like, oh, if maybe it's taking on a new project, right? That I have no experience in, right? Then there's a lot of self-doubt, right? About, will I be able to do it successfully? Will I find the right resources, put the right people, make the right decisions, decisions that I have never made before. So I think every time we're in a domain of unfamiliarity, there are those moments that creep in. And while they are not completely untrue, I think it's important that we recognize that if we become paralyzed by that, it holds us back from taking steps forward that will actually solve problems, that will actually bring value to the table. So I don't think we can fully eliminate self-doubt. In fact, I think that there is a healthy dose of self-doubt, right? Otherwise, you have like overconfident people. Yeah, and there's a danger in that too, right? So I think for me it's a little bit more about the balance between not recognizing that there's self-doubt, right, that exists, but not being withheld by that, right? And yeah, what's the worst thing that can happen? Project fail lor. That's a learning point in life, right? Uh yeah, and I think it's a really uncomfortable thing to try to have to face, right? That, so I think oftentimes we take a very fatalistic approach or a very fatalistic view towards failures, right? But actually, if you think in light of the larger scheme of things, right, it is one project that didn't go well, right? And maybe I get fired from my job lah, right? But
See you back in Halogen.
I have like 20 more years, 20, 30 more years of working life, and like 20, 30 more different projects that you can do. You don't over generalize one failure to all your subsequent failures, and you pick yourself out, you learn the lessons, and you move on lah. So I think that's the important part, right? Don't recognize self-doubt, and don't have a fatalistic view towards mistakes or failures. Yeah.
Even if you're scared to do something and when you actually do it, it doesn't make it any less courageous. Like doing something scared isn't any less courageous lah. Which I feel like resonates. I feel like if you're still scared, you should just do it. Got the YOLO approach to life,
Yeah. In fact, I think it's in moments where you are scared that you will require courage, right? Courage is nothing without fear.
And fear is nothing without courage. Wow.
No, sometimes fear is everything, and then you don't do anything else.
Is my right? Okay. If you could rewrite the inner script that plays in your head, what's one line you delete and what would you replace it with?
Do you have one?
I think going back to like a negative narrative that I constantly perpetuate to myself. I guess like something, okay, inner script also doesn't exist to me. It's like a inner discussion table side chat type of thing, right? On my discussion table, it's basically like that I always have to stay stronger. Because I feel like you can tell yourself to have a growth mindset, right? But if you think that everybody around you is not going to support you growing and being vulnerable and just going through like life with your emotions, I feel like that's something I need to change, or like that's a narrative that I want to replace in my head. And what will I replace it with? I guess be okay to share. That's why you have people, and honestly, no mammal or literally any animal or anything on earth is meant to be solitary.
I think one that I have that sometimes plays quite consistently is it's not a really an inner script about myself. It's a maybe you can call it mind reading, right? It's a script that I play out for other people. And this comes in my role, whether at work or at home, right? The people that I interact with. Sometimes when you interact with people at work, or at home, sometimes there will be behaviors or things that upset you, irk you, disappoint you. And I think one of the things that I would typically struggle with is giving them feedback about how their actions uh, have impacted me, right? Because there is some kind of a script in my head that plays that people will not be receptive to feedback, or they will be automatically defensive, right? When you tell them like, okay, this, especially when the feedback is not very positive lah. Yeah. So what does that do for me is I actually withhold feedback quite a fair bit. Yeah. Then I just, like bottle things up and then
I feel like that whole inner monologue question is something I need to think about, honestly. Like, I feel like at so many points where I face challenges, you have a lot of things in your head screaming a lot of different things, right? And I feel like everybody should honestly reflect on that. You listening right there should go and think about a narrative in your head that's like not that positive that you want to correct, honestly. So we'll leave you with that, a reflection question.
yeah, and the founders of Halogen started with this model called beliefs, values, behavior, and action, right? Where beliefs is the center of everything, and it influences everything outwards, right? And this, the early adaptation, of course, now that I've read a bit more into it, we know it finds its foundations in cognitive behavioral psychology, where what you believe, what you think about has an impact on your choices, your actions, and there are well documented and very common, right, cognitive distortions or automatic negative thinking patterns that just jeopardizes our own chances of success at work or at relationships lah. So yeah, I would strongly encourage all of us, to just go through, read through, Google it, and when you read through it, you'll start to become aware that, oh yeah, I do have, out of these 10 common ones, you have maybe like 5 or 6 of them, and awareness is the first step to take lah. And then you know how you can troubleshoot from there. Yeah.
Something that I want to add on to that is basically when you read the 10 cognitive distortions or whatever he just said, I think be aware and be patient with yourself. Don't be too self-conscious about changing too many things about yourself. And when you focus on just living your life and doing your best, always I guess be there for yourself lah, and be patient with not, for example, correcting something as fast as you should. If you see anything about yourself that's a negative trait, know that being aware of it and doing your best to kind of rectify it it's fine lah. Instead of always pursuing yourself like, oh, I said this thing again, oh, I'm avoiding feedback again, oh, I'm a bad person.
Yeah. And I just want to iterate that it's not just what you believe about yourself, what you believe about others also greatly influences how you approach them. What you believe about the world around you, right? Also, yeah, it basically called your worldview, right? Greatly influences how you approach situations and circumstances. And yeah, recognizing the unhealthy patterns, is trying to see if there's a alternative, healthier approach to it. I think that is what will set us up for a thriving and successful life. So yeah, we answered quite a lot of questions today. Yeah, I think going through some of these questions, made me realize that even though I know some of these cognitive distortions, some of these concepts conceptually, I am not always intentional to recognize them to call them out, all right, and to adjust my thinking and therefore subsequently my approach to those situations. And yeah, now that on and the benefit of hindsight, right, I look back at some of those situations. If I thought about them differently, I would have approached them differently. I would maybe have given more feedback to my to the people around me, and then maybe I don't have to put up with so much of the repeated behaviors that are causing me like disappointment and distress and upsetness lah. Yeah, so yeah, I think those are I'm prescribing my own medicine for myself in this short episode. What about you?
For me, it's more about, I think, patience with myself. So I think I'm more reflective in that way, where I kind of also overthink a lot about how I can be a better person, a better leader, a better teammate, a better friend, right? And if I think too much about all these type of things, right, like I always focus on about building a better me, and of course that's good. But if I make that my whole life, building a better me, and I don't focus on living and seeing how I want to build a better me, right, I feel like we'll go back to that whole conversation again about emotional burden. It's really tough to just keep thinking about where you fall short. And it's also once again back to patience and about how you deal with it. So I think being self-conscious, and as Sean said, being intentional with your actions, it's something that's already the first step in building a better you. And take it slow lah.
And we talked a lot about a lot of the questions were about our belief systems, right? And I realize our beliefs really do affect our course, our choices, our actions, our behaviors, and it is our actions that and our choices that actually make up our life, right? But what really influences all of these are our belief systems, and I think that is a starting point that we need to examine if we know we are not achieving, our full potential in life, the success or the achievements that are or the opportunities that are placed before us, right? A really good question that all of us can ask ourselves is, are we thinking the right things? Are we believing the right things about ourselves, about the people around us, or even about the world, or how the world works? Yeah.
I think that's honestly a really good way to end off. Leave you guys with that reflection question. And if you enjoyed today's episode, let a friend or anybody you think might enjoy this listen to this, because we want more viewers. Yeah. Please subscribe.